5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, there's a little
Get on your feet, shake your hands in the air. Welcome to the stage, Linda Kaye.
I want to be a millionaire. Let me heal it. It's Linda Kaye. When you trust that piece of you that says, I got something to give, you know you've got something to do. When you learn how to market, you learn that you don't have to sell. I have sold over $750 million in products and services. Because if you market something really, really well, you never have to sell. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Today is the first of many episodes about money talk. And I love to talk about money. There's no better topic that I like to talk about. But one of the things that I had discovered is that money really is centered around a lot of things. It is a currency. It gets us things. It gets us out of things. It gets us more into things and more stuff. But one of the most specific things that I can think about, and I have a great appreciation for, is total disruption. Because when there is great disruption, there is opportunity. And there's no better disruptor than I know than my special guest today, John Limbocker. So, John, welcome to the disruption episode.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
So, John, we've got to talking about a few things. We don't have to look very far to see how disruption impacts us. And disruption impacts us in a whole lot of ways. We certainly don't have to look very far to think about the last 3 years and having the total announcement as if we needed somebody to announce to us that COVID was over, right? So we know that there was a total disruption with that. There's total disruption with digital transformation, like new technologies from 5G or the Internet of Things or all those other things that go along with that. Or even climate change, since we know that climate change and weather, whether you believe it or not, we do get some sort of weather here nearly every day, and some of it's not always good, right? But the demographics or geopolitical tensions or things that interrupts supply chain. We don't think about these things until we're really looking for something, that we want something like that extra roll of toilet paper, or why didn't that particular product get delivered? But I want to talk about technology disruptions, because technology disruptions have the most potential for the biggest impact. So let's talk about technology disruptors. What do you think some of the technology disruptors will be that we're facing right now, and then what we'll be facing in the future?
Well, I'm definitely no stranger to technology disruptions. I've been disrupted and put out of business several times in the last so many years. So it's like anytime there's a new technology, the disruption means a couple of things. One thing it means is there's going to be some people that are out of business. It is going to level some things that nobody wanted leveled. Like me, I didn't want my businesses destroyed by technology, but I didn't really have a choice. When the technology shows up and the disruption's knocking, usually that door closes really quickly. But what I've learned in all of that is when the door closes, generally a window of opportunity opens. And if you're looking for the window, it's usually right in front of you. And most people they're so disrupted and they're so upside down from the door closing that they don't even notice the window that's staring them right in the face.
Now, I can relate to that, John, because, from simple things, some people handle change better than others. Some people look for the change. Some people thrive in the change. And then there are those that go, I am not changing no matter what it is, right? I mean, I can remember when ATMs came along and my mom said, I'm not going to get money from a machine. And I said, well, you're going to be left behind because everybody's going to get their money out of a machine. So what you're describing is change or die.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that is the way of the future. if you don't change with it, I mean, how would you like to be selling buggy whips right now? That was
Or
a great business at one point.
right? So it was being a blacksmith, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so that went out with the horse and buggy. Now, talk to me about AI. Now, everybody understands what AI is. And I've
Yeah.
always said that artificial intelligence was better than none at all. But in some instances, John, that's all some people have. So let's talk about AI.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, like that we all know what it is. I think most people don't know what it is. I mean, even myself is as into it as I am, I didn't know I was doing it until just recently.
Well,
Um,
there are some people that don't realize they're doing a whole lot of things until somebody points them out, John. But in AI, what do you mean by that?
well, in AI, like I started training Google's algorithm using AI back in like probably 2011. And prior to that, going back as far as 2006, I was using a form of robotic AI to generate websites for marketing purposes, like mass websites, like millions of them at a click of a button. And
Well, I think that's going to go over a few heads now. And I appreciate the fact that, John, you are what many people are referring to as the Internet 3, and you're a pioneer in this. So, something that didn't exist or somebody didn't talk about 4 months ago, everybody's talking about or using Chat GPT, which is a great example.
yeah,
So let's stay on the current technology of AI, and then reference back so we can get a
gotcha.
little bit of historical in it, because I don't think people understand. I think people get that robots are making cars, and I don't think they understand that robots are also doing surgery on delicate parts of our body. But
Yeah.
as I said, there are those that will be left behind. I don't want to be the last in line because you get picked off. So
So the AI that you're referring to here is what's known as generative AI. And by that, that means that it's generating content. So ChatGPT is a perfect example. That has been adopted faster than anything I've ever seen. Like it took 10 years for people to really adopt email. And ChatGPT went from 0 users to 100 million users in like less than 3 months. So
that is a staggering number. I mean, when you consider adopting or adapting to, that
yeah.
is possibly one of the fastest adaptations I think I've ever heard of. Talk about that in terms of money, since the topic that we're talking about is money. What's going to
Yeah.
be the financial impact of Chat GPT?
Well, there's going to be tremendous amount of loss from people losing jobs over it. Because if you think about it, I would not want to be a copywriter right now, because the Chat GPT, the reason I think that it got adopted so quick is because it's so easy to use. It's literally a chat window, and you can ask it anything you want and it will tell you. And like you could ask it to do anything you want as far as generating text. So if you are a copywriter, to think about that, what's going to happen when people don't need copywriters? They just go to the Chat GPT window and they say, can you write me an article on this topic? And it does all the research. It formats it. It puts it out in a matter of seconds, something that would have taken you possibly a week to do. And
Now, hold on there a second, John, because I think that everybody has either written a paper or a speech or even a toast using ChatGPT. I am guilty of the same. At the same time, do you think that ChatGPT can skunk us a little bit? Using the old Gigo, right? Garbage in, garbage out from a computer perspective. Let's analyze it from that perspective. Can we ask questions that ChatGPT just simply makes up?
absolutely. And what that's called, it's called a hallucination.
I I
So,
I I feel like I'm living one from time to time myself.
and I've actually seen this. you'll ask it a question and you'll get the answer back. And like, if you know the answer is different, you can ask it, is this based on fact? And one thing about the AI, it's programmed to not lie. So it has to answer you with it to the best of its ability. So if it's generated content that it just made up with hallucination, and the thing that causes hallucination is the lack or absence of data. Like if you ask it a question that it doesn't have any data on, it assumes you want an answer right or wrong, and it will just make one for you. So you got to be careful of that, especially if you're generating content to represent you and your business. That could be devastating.
How would you ask it a question to make sure that you got the correct answer? Since ChatGPT will not reveal its sources, it says it's a machine. How can it possibly be responsible for telling you the source?
Well, it actually can. It can reference. So you ask what its reference material, because everything it puts out is based on either reference or lack thereof. So if there's a lack thereof and it's just making something up, it has to disclose that. And
Okay, fair enough.
you can either ask it after the fact, or you can instruct it. They call that prompting. The way that you ask the question is a prompt. And in the future, you wanted to know where money is going to be made with this thing. I think the most money with ChatGPT particularly is going to be uh, called prompt engineering. There's going to be a new
What the
job
heck is that?
that is basically engineering the questions to ask it so you get the right answers.
But aren't
And
there a lot of knockoff or a lot of companies doing that right now, John, that are trying to say, here's the best and use this template and this is going to be the best and brightest. And
I've
I'm sure
seen
you've
a
seen
lot
them.
of those. I've seen a lot of those, and almost, well, not almost, everyone I've seen is pretty well junk, pretty much garbage.
So but since it's new technology and it's new, everybody's kind of getting on the bandwagon. I think that there will be a lot of shakeout and fallout, certainly of existing jobs where content was a vital part of your job description, generating that. But at the same time, I think that there is so much good practical use out of AI. It's not just, from a content perspective. Talk about it in some of the other applications that it's being used.
Oh, sure. So not just text content, but images. Like I had a real estate guy in Colorado, and he does high-end real estate. And what he was doing before was he was taking pictures of his houses that he had for sale, and then he was having an artist turn them into a painting, a rendering. And I said, why don't you just use the AI for that? You can upload a picture into the AI and tell it you want it repainted in a Rembrandt style or a Van Gogh style. And in seconds, you have your piece of art. From any
Wow.
image, you can describe any scene or any image or person. You can actually create people. Like avatars is a fancy name for a representation of an ideal client. And you can actually create, I did this myself. I wanted a marketing assistant. And so I went on to what was called Midjourney, which is an image AI program, and I started prompting it. And it actually created for me a very lifelike woman that is my now my new marketing assistant. And I took the image of her. I went back to Chat GPT and I said, I need some scripts for my new marketing assistant talking about one of my products. And I gave it all the information it needed, and it generated the scripts for her. And I took her image and then I took the scripts and I took it to another AI program to animate her image and lip sync her and add the voice, an AI voice. So I literally got an animated cartoon character, very lifelike looking, that can now speak on my behalf and be a spokesperson. And she will say anything I want her to say.
That is scary and dangerous. I told you, didn't I tell you he's a disruptor? Listen, stay tuned because there's going to be a lot more. John,
Yeah, I
talk to me
mean,
about how there's another disruptor, and it's blockchain. What the heck is a blockchain?
so blockchain and the blockchain technology, it's really kind of like, for lack of a better thing, like if we go out of the weeds, we get out of the technical weeds, it's nothing more than a spreadsheet. If you're familiar with like Excel spreadsheets, that's what the blockchain is. It's like a massive spreadsheet. It is online, so there's no like one place. It's just kind of out there. It's accessible from anywhere. And one of the cool things about it is its transparency. So it's basically out in the public. So the blocks, each cell is kind of like a safe deposit box. Nobody can access it except the owner of the box. The owner has the keys, but it's transparent that what's in the box can be seen, but not accessed.
That brings up a really important issue, John, because the one on the one hand, you look at blockchain, and a lot of people are really terrified of this notion, but we're seeing it in more and more applications, not just cryptocurrency, but also in real estate transactions and in international transactions. I think that one of the most important pieces of this is the the fluidity of being able to move, and I want to put these two together with currency, and being able to move currency rapidly and quickly. Can you talk to that for a second?
So so it's really about ownership. So whatever is in that block is owned by the owner of the keys. The owner of the keys has full access to do whatever they want with whatever asset is in that block. So like you mentioned real estate, if you're now you have a title, right? And if you're going to sell a piece of property, you have to have all these things. You have to have escrow, you've got to have title company, you have to have all this stuff, right, to make a transaction.
And not only that, but it's coming from many different places. So you want to make sure that the content is secure. And
Yeah.
also, once a title is signed, the title moves into another ownership. So
But
talk
you
to
need
me
all
about
these
the ability to really secure this and keep fraud out.
you need all these intermediaries the way it is. But with blockchain, all the owner of the asset needs is the destination address. Like I would just need, if I were going to transfer a piece of property from my ownership to yours, all I would need is my keys that access it in my blockchain, and I would need the address of your blockchain where you want it put, where you hold the keys and you hold the ownership of that block.
So you're telling me that no one else would be able to touch it, nobody else would be able to
Nope.
tamper with the information if what you wanted to send me was sent to me direct, as opposed to going through many intermediaries. Maybe I'm buying a castle in France, and I want that money that's sitting here in the US to be transferred securely and sent. Not just, I could use cryptocurrency, but I could also use this in place of that and be able to secure now not only the transaction, not only the title, but even the contract,
Correct. That is
without
absolutely.
having agents involved with
And,
this.
and the whole transaction could take place in a fraction of a second with almost no cost.
Now, go back a second. The cost could be huge if you don't know what the heck you're doing, or
Well,
the
yeah,
cost could be huge if you sent it to the wrong address.
that is very correct. So that's a thing about when you talk about ownership, you also talk about responsibility.
Okay.
Most things that we own now, like let's talk about stocks. The way most people
Let's
own stocks is they go through an exchange, a stock exchange, or a broker. And the broker actually handles the transaction. The broker holds your stock certificates. Most people don't hold their own stock certificates. The stock certificate is the actual piece of ownership, right? So if you were holding your own stock certificates and you lost them, or your house burned or whatever, and they're gone, you lost it.
They're
It's
gone.
gone. You were responsible for it, and you are responsible for its loss. Now, if an exchange is holding that for you and you lose your password or whatever, you just call the exchange and say, "Hey, I got locked out. Can you let me back in?" And
Right.
they'll
And
say,
right now that's easy to do. But how will that work if you're, say, in blockchain?
if you're in blockchain, it's the same thing. There's exchanges. So you don't have to be responsible for your keys, although I would encourage anyone to do that, because whoever holds the keys holds the assets. Like, for instance, this is a big problem in cryptocurrency specifically right now. Most people are trading cryptocurrencies through an exchange, and they're holding all of their cryptocurrencies in that exchange. Like, FTX is a perfect example of this.
Oh, the meltdown, you mean?
Yeah, that was an exchange, and a lot of people had their crypto on that exchange. And when it imploded, they have no recourse. All of their crypto's gone.
So now compare this, John, for a second. So we've seen, you know, we've heard stay out of cryptocurrency, get into cryptocurrencies, get out of cryptocurrency, get into cryptocurrency. And people are people have severe whiplash from, oh, I don't know which direction I should take on this, except it's too unstable, it's too volatile. And then we don't have one, we don't have two, but we have three complete meltdowns at pretty significantly high levels where we, the taxpayers, will pay for the bailouts on these banks. So let's talk money. Let's talk about the two, from cryptocurrency meltdown to bank currency meltdown.
I believe, and and I'm not a financial guy, so this is just based on my beliefs, but my belief is this is all calculated. This is all planned strategically for the transition from our current monetary system into the new future monetary system,
You're
which
hearing it here, guys. You're hearing it
most
here.
most people think this is a ways out, and I think we're right on the edge. I think this could literally happen any day.
Well, when you consider that, you've got the adaptability of technology in a way that could not have occurred if we didn't have the Internet of Things, if we didn't have the receptivity. Our cars are smarter, our everything's smarter except us. What's this going to do to us? Is it going to dumb us down, John?
Well, the smarter the technology around us becomes, the dumber we can get. And the perfect example of that is when the pocket calculator came out. Now
Mhm.
nobody knows how to do basic math.
Right?
I mean,
Mental
you
math.
could, yeah, you can go to just about any retail store, and if the lights went out, if the electricity went off, the people would not know how to make change at the register.
Trust
That
me,
to
John, the lights went out for a lot of those people long before they got behind the cash register.
me, but seriously, that to me is a tragedy.
It
That
is,
is,
because when you can't make change for $100 bill, or even for a 20, for God's sakes, there's a problem. There's a serious problem.
yeah,
But
yeah, that's
I'm curious about how the blockchain, as it starts to get more adaptability, and it starts to get um, more secure from and versatile. I want to say versatile and secure. It's secure from the
well,
perspective that if it's in your hands and you intended it to get to the right hands, the fact that you've got speed of light, or speed of a click of a keyboard, being able to make a transaction occur. What do you think, or should there be any stopgap measures to prevent or create a rollback in the same way that we've done in the stock market?
well, all of the stuff that you just mentioned is already there. The thing that hasn't taken place yet, and the thing that's going to make this really move, is adoption. So the system's already built. It's not new. It's been going on for 10 years or more than 10 years. They've already worked out the majority of the bugs. they've already got a system in place called ISO 222, which is a standard that all of the banks went live with this year.
And ISO is nothing new, John. So to our viewers and our listeners, ISO isn't some woo-woo magic stuff. ISO is an international standard organization. So it says,
Right.
this is how we're going to communicate. This is how, a bit or a byte is going to look. This is why ones and zeros are used. This is how the language that we use for machine language will be like this. So ISO is this new standard is at a banking level, John?
Yes, the 222 is the standard for how banks will all interconnect, and this is worldwide. This is not just the USA. This is worldwide. Worldwide adoption took place already this year. It happened in March.
Wow.
So they're all connected. They're all on the standard. They are literally, they could flip the switch any day. So we are right on the edge of a massive, massive shift in the financial system. And most people are just completely blind to it.
It's so true. It is so true. So, John, I know that you're not a gambling man. You like calculated risks and calculated, although you do take a few risks. I think somebody that goes out on a boat down into the wide ocean has a certain amount of risk tolerance where I would have little. But our viewers are sitting on the edge of their seats going, if John had a favorite cryptocurrency he loved and he recommended, what would that be?
Well, let me kind of tell you why before I tell you what.
I love the why. Instead of getting a what, let's do a why.
Instead of just spoon feeding them with the what, let me tell you the why.
Okay, you're going to have to sit on just a little bit on the edge of your seat a little while longer, but I promise we'll deliver.
I look at the most wealthy individuals on the planet, and what I look for is what they're doing, not what they're saying. Because all those people have been saying, stay out of crypto, right? That's what they're saying. That's not what they're doing. What they're doing is they're stockpiling certain cryptos. And I'm looking at those cryptos and I'm saying, why would they stockpile those?
Is that a conspiracy or is that a fact?
It's a fact. This is a
Okay.
fact. Like I can tell you, Warren Buffett has been saying, stay out of crypto since the first person whispered crypto. He's been saying, stay out of that, right? Well, when he discovered he had a massive holding in Wells Fargo banks, when he discovered that Wells Fargo was behind in changing over to the crypto style and getting on the ISO 222, and he found out that Bank of America was leading the pack, he shifted his investment from Wells Fargo to Bank of America.
That's big. And so if the Oracle of Omaha would do it, who is pretty conservative, says he never invests in anything he doesn't understand, don't think for a second he doesn't understand this or have people at his beck and call that can explain things to him. So now we know some of the why. Others are getting into it. It's sort of like big investors or big stock houses. Nobody goes out and says, oh, hey, that one's really hot over there. They sneak in under the wire. They get in and they go and they buy 100,000 shares. And then they go buy another 100,000 and then 1,000,000 shares. So is this kind of like that?
It is. It's very much like that because outside of that transaction that he did, shifting his money from Wells Fargo to Bank of America, he also is investing in stockpiling in a particular cryptocurrency that is set to have the utility between the banks to move money cross-border. It's also the same crypto has the utility of on-demand liquidity, which
so
is going to
hold on. I want to draw an analogy here. So when we wire funds, say for instance, if we wire funds anywhere, it goes through a clearinghouse, it goes to New York. This is why, we have cutoffs at certain times of the day. So what you're saying is that this cryptocurrency has something like an exchange per, say, vertical. So the banking vertical, say, for instance, because this is how money is being moved, right? Or currency is being used. So you're saying that this platform would be similar to that.
This will replace that with a new technology, like what you just described is the way it's been for a very long time. So if you
Correct.
want to move money from, New York to Los Angeles, that money has to be on both sides, right?
Correct.
So you're literally tying up twice as much money as needs to be moved, and this is worldwide. Do you have any idea how much money every day is transferred worldwide, bank to bank, country to country? And you have to have twice the circulating supply to do the transaction.
So
That's
please tell
all.
me that we're going to be with this new platform, it's going to be just 1-to-1, not 2-to-1.
It's none to none.
Explain that.
It is the on-demand liquidity. It's liquidity on demand. You don't have to look for it. You don't have to get it on both sides. It will make the transaction and be its own liquidity pool. So it will take any currency to any currency without the liquidity pool.
That just
It'll
blows my mind. Okay,
it
my
will
mind
just
just went.
instantly. Like what happens now, let's say you're transferring money to Europe and they're on a different money, a different monetary system, all of that. And that transfer could take several days. Well, the value of the currency on both sides in several days could change radically.
Of course.
And in most cases, the banks are positioning themselves to make the money on the edge of that. They're
Correct. The
using,
float. There's something that we call the float.
they're using that to benefit. That
And
doesn't
for our listeners, we're not just talking about 100,000 here. We're talking millions of dollars that get transferred and
hundreds.
by a single entity. So you could be one of hundreds that are with the same bank institution that's sending funds overnight to another country or to another bank. That float, even if it's for a few hours or it's just overnight, that float could be tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. So this particular cryptocurrency that I'm talking about, that's its utility. There's no other
Hold on,
crypto.
John. Hold on. You mean to tell me that the banks would allow themselves to be end of life like this? Because what we're talking about is the bloodline. It's the lifeline of banking institutions worldwide. So you're telling me that they would allow themselves to be sort of terminated?
They're not allowing it. It's just happening. They're fighting like hell to stop it. In fact, there's SEC lawsuits in the US right now that's trying to hold this back. It's trying desperately to stop
All
this
right.
because, in
You're,
my opinion, the
you've
SEC.
got us all curious, John. And before you give this to them, I want to let our reader and our viewers know that we will be bringing John back to talk about some of the things we didn't get to today. But before he reveals this, I want to ask a few more questions. If you like what you're hearing, please drop in the chat, point I like it, subscribe to it, because this is a channel that's going to keep going. And before we do the big reveal, John, I do have a couple of questions, but our viewers are really wanting to know the what. But let's finish the why, because you told me the who and the why. Why does this exist? Why? We know why the banks would want to fight this, but we don't know why. We know the functionality. We know the benefit that this will be. Tell me the downside.
Well, the downside to the banks is they're going to lose a bunch of money over this.
Unless they start trading in the same currency.
Well, they don't even have to trade in the same currency. The crypto that I'm talking about, its functionality doesn't replace any currency. It is just the thing that transfers the currency from one to another. It moves money cross-border. This
And
cryptocurrency
instantly.
This cryptocurrency is not made for consumer use. This is made for banks. Now, the thing is, since it is a cryptocurrency and it is publicly available, at least outside the the US, like I said, has a lawsuit against it with the SEC. And in my opinion, the SEC works for the banks, not for the people like it's supposed to. It's doing everything right now
You
to
mean
protect
banks really are
the bank.
supposed to work for us, John?
Well,
What a notion.
certainly the SEC. I mean, their job is to protect the consumers, and they're
Right.
not doing
They're
that
not doing
currently.
it. They're
Now,
not doing that.
this has come to light in congressional hearings. It's being pointed out blatantly that what they're doing is not in the interest of the public like they're supposed to. But yet, that's why I say I believe this is all planned out. I believe this is a big play going on. And, the world is a stage for these people. And
It truly is. Well, it's a stage for a whole lot of people, and I suspect that my stage is going to swallow me up if I don't finish up. So we have just a couple more minutes, John. So before we do the big reveal, for those of you that don't understand and want to know a little bit more about what we're talking about, the three big topics that we've been talking about is blockchain and blockchain technology, which I think is a really important construct of our next version of where money and currency is going to be, and the crypto. So we've all heard about crypto. So AI, crypto, and blockchain. And the only thing that we didn't really kind of get to, which is still sort of in its infancy, is quantum physics. So we have to wait for that one. But as we wrap all of this up, where can people learn more about what they need to know and how this is going to impact them, besides Chat GPT?
well, I think the perfect place for them is right here on this channel. If they subscribe here, they're going to get everything they need spoon-fed to them.
You heard it. You heard it here. Subscribe. I'm telling you, we won't steer you wrong. All right, John, the big reveal. All right. No drum roll.
So back to Warren Buffett for a second. He has
Okay,
gotten a 5% equity share of this particular cryptocurrency, which is worth $2.5 billion.
That's only 5%. Wow.
He holds 5%. That's $2.5 billion worth.
What
So
does the Oracle of Omaha know that many of these listeners don't, John?
Well, what he knows is this is going when I talked about the flip of the switch, right?
Right.
When they flip the switch, the currency, the cryptocurrency I'm talking about is going to be valued just like gold backed the dollar. This is going to be the digital gold that backs all the money in the world. And when they did this, when they valued gold, they took the money that it represented to back it, they divided the amount of ounces of gold into that, and they got the price of gold. So with this, they're going to take the number of shares of this digital gold. They're going to take all the money it represents possibly in the world, and they're going to divide that number in.
That's a big number.
It's going to be the biggest transfer of wealth in human history. And it's probably never going to happen again, ever.
We have seen the shift of wealth. We saw it in 2008 to 2010. So, and we've seen it all throughout history. We've seen huge shifts. And those that are paying attention, and this is the reason why we're doing Money Talk. When you're paying attention, you're going to be able to hear and discern, where do I need to put my future? Where do I put what value do I put in the stock of information that I'm receiving in a world of misinformation? John, reveal to us, please. We're dying. We want to know, what is this cryptocurrency?
And before I do want you to know,
you're teasing us again.
I am not a financial advisor, and this is not financial
No, you are not, nor is this channel giving financial advice or legal advice.
But what I can tell you is I wish I had the money that Warren Buffett had to invest like he's investing in this.
John, you
But
and me both, because that would be
in
like winning the lottery, wouldn't it?
but what I'm willing to do is I'm willing to take my pennies and stack them next to his dollars
Okay.
when I purchase the cryptocurrency called XRP.
XRP.
XRP is the
Wow.
one that is built for on-demand liquidity worldwide. And the
Wow.
company that created it is called Ripple. And the CEO of Ripple has been going all over the world, connecting all the banks. There's only 2 countries in the entire world that are not currently connected to it. So when I say they're ready to flip the switch, it could happen any day.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Well, I can't thank you enough, John, for the wealth of information, some of the conspiracies that we're hearing here this morning, which I think is really, really exciting. And the fact that there are so many ways for us to be able to capitalize on not only new technologies, but how to take advantage of the ones that are coming in the future. If somebody wanted to find you, John, how would they find you?
Well, I am online at internetdominators.com, and
I thought I had a banner here, John. I thought I could have
we
sworn I
should
put it up last night.
what we should do. I have a crypto club where you can learn a lot about crypto, and you should send everyone a link to that.
All
I
right,
don't,
give it to me, John.
I don't have it here currently, but what I'll do, I'll get it, and then you can send it out to all of your viewers.
I will, and I'll post it as well. So you heard it here. You want to get this information as soon as you can. And I want to thank the founder of Internet Dominators, John Limbocker, for joining me today. And I hope that each and every one of you got something out of this, that you're running out and trying to figure out who is Ripple, how do I get the XRP cryptocurrency. And please, if you liked what you heard, like, subscribe, share, and don't keep it to yourself. Even though some of this stuff is so good, it's as good as gold that you want to keep it. Join me next week when we have another episode of Money Talk. Thank you. Do you like to talk about money? If you do and you'd like to be a guest, contact me at lindakay360.com.